On the second debate tonight, across India in the last few weeks, viewers, we've seen attacks on surveyors, on officials who go on ground to collect data. That's then very important for various kind of analysis of the state of economy, on the jobs, on consumption, on sentiment, and of course, on the population itself. Now, why is this happening? Because of the fears about CAA and NRC along with NPR. People are just lashing out at these surveyors. In Birbhum, in West Bengal, for example, the locals attacked NGO workers. A woman's home was set on fire and they attacked them over the suspicion of collecting NRC data. There was also a bit of violence that took place. In the neighboring state of Bihar, in Darbhanga, a youth was targeted. He was rounded up by locals, trashed up, because they suspected that he was collecting data on voters. Now remember, Bihar is set to go to assembly polls shortly, which is why they got very, very fearful about what is it that this person was doing and if this person was actually collecting data for the NRC. In Kota in Rajasthan, a survey officer was targeted. This survey officer was actually part of the statistics department. He was roughed up by locals. The group also beat up a woman surveyor who was harassed by locals, and so this has now gone on in 4 different states. And even down south in Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu, large deposits in central bank were withdrawn after there was panic, alleging that there was an advertisement about NRC and that NRC will be mandatory for KYC norms, so people became really scared for their own money. They started withdrawing money and all of that happened. There is a lot of rumor mongering, there is a lot of fear mongering as well. And one casualty of that have been these surveyors. So as a result, in the Business Standard today, there was a report that said that the government is likely to defer the socio-economic survey that an expert group met on Wednesday, and these experts have recommended postponing the survey because of the protests against the CAA and the NRC. Because the field investigators, the surveyors, are facing multiple challenges. While some are simply witnessing lack of cooperation by households who shut their doors on their faces, the others obviously have safety concerns and they are being attacked by people who think they have come for their citizenship. The government is yet to take a final call on this, viewers. But just to help you understand why it's so important for us to take it up on prime time, these surveys are extremely essential for the kind of data collection exercise that any government continuously does. And these data collection exercises then give us the information that is required for policy making, for decision making. This is what is used by the government to deliver, to plan and deliver on its welfare schemes. This is what is used to get a sense of India's economic healthcare. This is what is used to understand the extent of employment or unemployment and just how well the Indian households are doing. What should be done? How do we resolve this issue? Do we need to strengthen the law and order and the security of these officials? Or does the government really need to put this on hold so that they can go out there first, explain to people that there are no concerns about NRC, nobody is coming for their NRC data right now? What do we do? This is a very serious concern outside of the Citizenship Amendment Act debate we've been having. Let's say good evening to Tuhin Sinha, spokesperson for the BJP, Professor Manojit Mandal, TMC supporter, Yashavardhan Azad, former IPS officer, Professor Santosh Mehrotra, Professor of Economics at Center for Informal Sector and Labour Studies at JNU. In fact, Professor Mehrotra, I want to begin with you. If you could help our viewers understand this further. What is it that these surveyors and officials do, and just how important it becomes to any data collection exercise?
You know, I'm actually a member of the Standing Committee of the Government of India on Economic Statistics. It's a newly appointed. By the way, there is an echo here, and if you can correct the echo, while you should ask the same question to someone else. I'm not going to answer your question until this echo is corrected.
Give me 2 minutes, Professor Mehrotra. We'll fix that and then I will come across to you. Tuhin Sinha, this is a big concern. There are already such big questions being raised about the credibility of the data. The government has said they need to come out with new methods. But at the end of the day, on ground, if you're not able to protect your surveyors, what will you do?
Well, I'm glad you have taken this issue up because the very concerted and planned attempts to disrupt economic surveys and statistical surveys only exposes the devious plans of the CAA protesters. And I have said from day one, CAA is only the facade. The whole intent is to create civil strife, is to create mayhem in society, and to disrupt, disrupt governance when you know that there is no other way you can take on the ruling party. And I'm sad, what you see happening across the country is a very sad reflection, because at the end of the day, the surveyors are government employees. They're doing their job. By harming them, the parties supporting them are only exposing their anti-social agenda. Now, when it comes to the government, the story about government postponing a certain survey, that is only in the realm of speculation right now. To the best of my knowledge, the government would want to go ahead with all surveys on the stipulated dates, because, giving into them would only bolster these recs. But at the same time, the safety of the surveyors is important. So we will take a considered decision, but there is definitely no going back on NPR or any other statistical data. The problem is parties like Congress are simply anti-poor. In 1985, if you remember, Rajiv Gandhi had made a statement, जब हम ₹1 खर्च करते हैं सरकार का, तो सिर्फ 15 पैसे गरीबों के हाथ में आते हैं. What these people don't understand is an exercise like NPR is an purely administrative exercise which will only improve the efficacy of governance deliverance. But they are so used to a corrupt system that they want to hoodwink it, they want to disrupt it, they want to have it postponed by all means. That's the truth.
You say you're going to go on with NPR, and I'll come back to you on that, because I see no point of having an NPR exercise which will not be allowed in Congress ruled states, where the West Bengal government has already refused to do it. They've stopped the work on ground already. None of the officials are doing anything over there. Kerala won't allow it. Odisha has said no. Bihar, where your own allies in government, has said that they don't want to do NPR the way it is in the new format basis. So I don't know what NPR exercise you are hoping to undertake nationwide starting April, but I'll come back to that in a bit. Professor Mehrotra, if we can just test the audio with you to see if the echo is gone.
I also want to point out today.
Tuhin, I'll come back to you. Yes.
I can hear you now. And there's no echo. Please go ahead.
Okay. So the question that I asked you, if you can help us understand, the kind of data that will get impacted if the surveyors cannot go out on the field.
First, let me clarify for the benefit of your audience that I don't think the survey that is currently underway, which is where the NSSO staff are actually facing threats, has nothing to do with the NPR.
Yes.
It is a NSS survey that was being done, a National Sample Survey Organization, is part of the Ministry of Statistics. And for about 65 years of the existence of this nation, NSS has done surveys across this country. So this discussion is not about NPR, it is about a survey that is currently in place, being conducted by the NSSO, and it is the NSS schedule implementers, meaning who go out there and ask questions. They are facing a threat because there are questions in it which are reminding people of the kinds of questions they believe are in the NPR and are going to be in the NRC. So this is the point of this discussion. I don't think we should.
No, you're right. That is exactly the point.
One thing with another. This is point one. Let me make one other point very briefly, that the issue has arisen where NSS is doing the survey in both the government. in states where the party in power in the center is the same party in power in the state, but there are many other states which are opposition states. So there is UP there is Karnataka there. And in addition, there is Kerala there is Maharashtra there is Bihar there. So the point is, this problem is arising from a certain distrust among the people, the ordinary people. And I can tell you, as a member of the Standing Committee on Economic Statistics created by the Ministry of Statistics, of which Dr. Pranab Sen, the former Chief Statistician of India, is the chairman, in meetings of ours, and this is separate from the expert group that you are referring to. In our meetings, the NSS staff have pointed out the threats that NSS staff are facing. I've said my bit.
All right. So let's then try and understand what can be done. Mr. Azad, like Santosh Mehrotra pointed out, it's stemming from a lack of trust. People now, react. Some react violently. There is a lack of trust for anybody who comes and starts asking them questions about their identity, their personal questions. It's a law and order issue as well. What can be done? Can we look at, perhaps giving them more security, or is the answer only in government reaching out to these people and telling them, please don't be scared, these are normal daily routine exercises?
This is not merely a matter of law and order. I think it's more a matter of perception and reality, which certainly needs to be corrected. As some of the panelists earlier have already said, the issue is that the people do think, and they are scared that this may be somehow related with the NPR. Without any basis, they are thinking about this. Now, there is a perception of this kind in the various states, also in those states which are supporting the central government like Bihar. Therefore, it means that it is pervasive and does not only occur in states which are arraigned against the central government. Now, the issues, there are 2-3 very critical issues here. One is that the safety of these volunteers or the safety of these government servants who are going there for any kind of a survey, the protection has to be given by the state government. Now, the state government can give protection, but also protection of what kind? The state government also has to create an atmosphere when this is an all-pervasive kind of a survey that, listen, people are coming for these socioeconomic surveys, and therefore people need not react in such a hostile manner. The people will have to be made believe. They are watching TV every day. They are watching things which are happening on Shaheen Bagh. They are watching things which are happening in Hausarani. So they are muddled with so many things coming in the newspapers, so many things coming in the TV channels. So if a state government tries to give security, it will be a huge amount of security which will be expended. So unless you create that atmosphere, and for that matter, I think the state governments will have to be more sagacious. You may have your opposition to CA, you may have your opposition to whatever, but the normal work has to proceed. Some of the politicians go out of their way to prove their political point, not realizing that they have some kind of commitment to the people's welfare also. And that is why it is time that the central government should call all the state chief ministers and tell them, you might have your opposition, you might have any stand, but this is for the socio-economic survey. And if you're allowing these lumpins to disturb this kind of a survey, then you're discrediting and you're doing a great disservice to your own people.
Yes.
Therefore, there's another thing which I feel, you see, the matter with the Supreme Court, which is pending there, is also having an impact on this.
Yes.
The interlocutors have failed, as I can see. And that is also creating some kind of an impact. We can talk about this later, but
yes.
Preliminary point which I want to say, it is incumbent on the state governments to see that these surveys go, and for that they have to create an atmosphere and also provide security.
Oh yes, absolutely. Now I just want for our viewers to understand a little bit more about what were the questions during this specific survey that actually triggered such a reaction that they had to start considering deferring, this kind of work? Did the person stay in the same place for at least 6 months? What was the last place of residence? Are household members planning to move out? Which country did the household member last live in? Some of the questions that seem to have reminded people or gotten this fear in their minds that, is this step 1 to NRC? What's going on? Why am I being asked these questions? But Mr. Manojit Mandal, it is also very important for us and our country and our governments to know what is the level of employment and unemployment in our country. It is also very important for us to know, what is the consumption pattern, who's spending, who's not spending, who has the money power to spend or not spend. It is important for our government to know the economic health of our country. All of that is at stake. Don't you think the state governments need to take charge here?
This has been going on for ages in the name of the census. The questions that you have raised just now are there in the census, which comes under a separate law. The census will continue as it is. These things are there. These can be raised. And NPR is absolutely a different exercise altogether. You have to understand that. NPR comes under a separate law that is under the rules of 2003 of Citizenship
But I'm not talking about
Act,
NPR
under
right
the
now.
Citizenship Registration Act.
No, Mr.
Now,
Mandal,
the
I
question,
am not talking about NPR or NRC
you are talking
or
about,
CAA.
certain issues.
I am
These issues
talking
can
about
be raised and
so
are regularly raised when the census
Correct.
exercise takes place.
Similarly for the socio-economic survey,
The issues
similarly
that
for
you
a lot
have
of other
raised
surveys
just
that the
now
government does.
are always raised every 10 years in the census exercise.
My question to you is, when government officials, those
Yes, what
appointed
is
to
your
do
question?
surveys from Ministry of Statistics, go on ground to collect information, is it not the responsibility of the state government to ensure they are safe and there is no fear mongering? Why is it that there are opposition parties in this country tonight who are making everything sound like a conspiracy about NRC? These are daily, regular, routine exercises that have been conducted in this country every year.
Tell me, for the last, yes, I'll answer. For the last 1.5 years, go back to 2018 August, since the first draft of NRC in Assam came out in 2018 August, who has been fear-mongering about NRC? You answer this question, ask this question to the people on the panel. Who has been talking about NRC everywhere? Who? It is the BJP and particularly the current Home Minister, right? Am I right or wrong?
No,
now,
they stopped over a month
movement,
ago. Now only opposition parties
Delhi
are
and other parts of the country, now the Home Minister has not the opposition party. The opposition party is not fear-mongering. They are saying that in certain states, NRC will not take place. It is the government, the central government, only in the last 1 month, or specifically since last week of December, because of the movement everywhere, the Prime Minister has to say that NRC ki baat hi nahi hui hai.
Correct, to ho gaya
NRC
na,
ki
abhi
baat hi
update
nahi
ho
hui hai.
gaya.
Whereas
Did
we
you
can
get that
understand
comment
that
or
on the
not?
floor of the Parliament, on the both the houses, both no, abhi nahi ho gaya hai. Abhi nahi ho gaya hai. Abhi in certain state government, they are also saying that there will be NRC, right? Even in the state BJP in the West Bengal, in their booklet, we had a show on this. They were talking about NRCs.
Correct.
Now they have to first, clarify in black and white. There would be no NRC. Now Home Minister says
otherwise,
and his junior minister on the floor of the
you
Parliament
and
saying that
your
there would be
party
no NRC.
chief, until Mamata Banerjee is convinced in written and in every
Question
other
is
format that NRC will not happen,
the
you won't
question
let any
is,
kind of
Tanvi,
census data
the
collection
question
take
you have
place.
to understand.
Yes or no?
You have to understand. No. Who is saying that?
But that's what is happening. This is what the government is saying.
NPR exercise was being
Surveyors
carried out
are
in
under
Bengal.
attack.
No.
Surveyors are under attack. Surveyors were attacked in Bengal.
You are not
Surveyors were attacked in Bihar. Surveyors were attacked in
That's because
Rajasthan.
of the context. That because of the context.
Is there some new content, Professor Mehrotra?
Who is responsible for this creation
Okay,
of this
1 minute,
atmosphere?
1 minute. Let's
Who has
clarify
created
this.
this atmosphere? It is a central government.
Let's clarify
because
this.
of their arrogance.
Professor Mehrotra, one more time for some of our panelists to also understand. Are there some new questions that are being asked that people should be scared of?
There is a new survey going on, and there are many standard questions there, and you read out some of them. I can read out some others from the questionnaire, and why are we surprised that they are leading to suspicion and to because there is an atmosphere of distrust prevailing.
Correct.
The fact of the matter is, and I wish to repeat, Tanvi, please repeat this for the benefit of your three panelists, that this is happening not just in opposition states, it is happening in
Yes.
government-ruled states.
Correct.
Please understand, it is happening. The NSSO has received complaints from Uttar Pradesh, from Karnataka, from Bihar. So the point is that if there are questions of the following kind, in the atmosphere in which we are operating, why are you surprised that there is distrust and suspicion? I'm going to read the question out to you from the NSS survey. So, the 78th round, which is about the multiple indicator cluster survey as well as tourism, the 78th round began in a few places, but it met with resistance. And what were the kinds of questions? Well, a question on their religion, on whether they possess a birth certificate, or about their place of residence, whether it was purchased after March 31, 2014. Now, under these circumstances, if there is a certain distrust in the atmosphere, having the police force there is actually going to make the situation worse. Okay. So we are being told, advised on this panel, for instance, that the state government must take action, that the police must take action. This is happening in both opposition as well as government-ruled states. And never in the history of the National Sample Survey Organization of our country have we had to send in police people, because this country, the ordinary people have gotten used over 65 years of National Sample Survey Organization people arriving to ask questions. Now we have a situation where, because of the prevailing atmosphere of distrust, there is any question that is being asked is being seen as suspicious. Any question, and you have read out some of the questions, I can read those out myself, and I've read out some of them. Now you understand what the source of the problem is.
Yes. Yes. In fact, if I may ask you to give us a few more of those questions to get a sense of what is it that the people are reacting to. I completely 100% agree with you, Professor Mehrotra.
I can understand.
I completely agree with you that this is about mistrust. This is about fear about what's going to happen. Why are these questions being asked? Or is this another way? People are not trusting anything that's coming in from the government on this aspect. But if I can request you to read out some of the other questions so that our viewers get a sense of what is causing this reaction.
I can try and do that. Yeah. Did the person stay in the same place for at least 6 months? This is one question. You can understand where the distrust then suddenly begins to arise from. What was the last place of residence? Question mark. Are household members planning to move out? Which country did the household members last live in? Question mark.
Are these questions essential to the survey that's being conducted and the data that is being sought?
I mean, look at the hypocrisy of this government. I mean, you can
Sorry,
understand
sir,
from these questions.
1 minute, Mr. Manojit Mandal.
They are
Mr.
trying to
Mandal,
do
I want
something
to
and they are
understand
saying
this.
something.
I'll
Can
come
I
to you.
finally intervene over here?
Yes, no, Tuhin, I will come to
think,
you
you
as
know,
well. Just one last question to Professor Mehrotra. Are these
the entire
questions
discussion is moving
essential
into a
to the
certain
data
skew.
that is being collected right now, to the survey and the genesis of that survey? Professor Mehrotra.
Sorry, I didn't hear that question.
Are
The
these
sound is not
questions
that great.
essential?
Tanvi, please repeat your question.
Yes. Are these questions essential to the data that the survey seeks to collect?
If you're asking whether these questions can be left out, I'm pretty certain that there would have been an expert group which sat over these questions very carefully, just as I am and many other experts are sitting over questions related to the labor force survey, questions related to the unorganized sector survey, all of to be done by the. So some experts must have sat over these questions. You know, if you're going to leave these questions out, there has to be some reason for leaving them out. If they are in there, there must be a reason for putting them in there. So, I mean, let's not second guess the experts.
Okay. No, I actually, that's why I asked you this question, because that's what many people will say, that what is the need of these questions is. I'm pretty sure Mr. Manojit Mandal was headed in that direction to say, why are these questions necessary? And you are an economist, you are an expert in these surveys, which is why I posed that question to you. Mr. Azad wanted to make a point, and then we will go back to our political representatives. Yes, Mr. Azad first.
You know, the senior economist, with all due apologies, hasn't told us exactly. He himself doesn't know what is a socioeconomic survey for. This is not one survey. There are also volunteers who are getting attacked from various places.
Exactly.
So unless we know what the socioeconomic survey is for, how do we know whether these questions are essential or not? And then later he agrees also that yes, the experts must have decided on these questions and therefore it is important. Now, if you take an issue in a vacuum and they say, what is the date of birth and where did they stay for the last 6 months? What is wrong with that question per se? I don't understand. Converting everything into a suspicion and blaming the government for everything, I don't think that's a fair thing.
I don't think he is saying that
there are surveys going on. There are socio-economic surveys.
No, Mr. Azad, I don't think Professor Mehrotra meant that this is suspect.
We are talking about socio-economic
He is saying
surveys.
you can see why people in the current environment may be suspecting something and may be suspicious. There is a difference in him questioning those questions.
No, that's all right.
Those
That's
Mr.
pointers.
Azad,
That is
Mr.
already
Azad,
proven.
Tanvi, let me come
No,
in.
that
Okay.
point is already
Tanvi,
proven.
let me come in.
No,
That
okay.
point is already proven.
Yes,
Let me come in.
The atmosphere is that we have already discussed.
That's all he's saying. Professor Mehrotra, did I get it
Very
wrong?
simple.
Yeah.
We know. Let me explain, Tanvi. For the benefit of Mr. Azad, who was obviously not listening when I was speaking, let me inform everyone that I know perfectly well which survey
I've
this is
listened to
coming
you very
from.
carefully.
There
You
is a
have been
multiple
not listening
indicator
to me.
cluster survey that is being carried out for the sustainable. Sir, let me finish. Sir, let me finish. Sir, let me finish.
Am I also not listening?
Interrupt you. So there is a multiple indicator. Again, he's interrupting.
No, that's not
There
him.
is a
That was
multiple
Tuhin,
indicator
yes.
cluster survey on the sustainable development goals of the country.
Right.
Okay. Simultaneously, there is a survey about tourism. So, I mean, it's not surprising that these questions should be there. Huh? So I know perfectly well what is the purpose of this. I mean, how does he, as a police officer who has never seen a questionnaire of this kind, making judgments about whether these questions should be there or should not be there? I'm saying experts should be left to do their job.
Correct.
That's the point. That we need to keep in mind.
Experts should be left to do their job, and that's what's happening. I believe we've got Mr. P.C. Mohanan on the phone line with me, and another big expert on this issue. Mr. Mohanan, this is a little concerning. If the surveyors and the field officers are not able to collect the data on ground, what does that mean? What happens to the information and the statistics that the government is supposed to give us?
Yeah, thank you, Tanvi. This is an issue which all of us are actually apprehensive. because a survey or a census happens when there is a trust between the respondent and the investigator. So without this trust, you cannot collect quality data. Now, in an atmosphere where people are likely to misunderstand the objectives of the survey, you will never get a correct response from the public. So this is likely to happen, especially when you ask questions related to migration, the place of residence. And these were, as Professor Mehrotra was saying, these are part of the SDG indicator database. So they have been asking this question all the time. But suddenly, when you, in the current surcharge atmosphere, people are likely to misunderstand the purpose. See, a lot of people don't distinguish between a census and a survey. When you go to the villages, most of them don't make a distinction whether it's coming from NSSO or from census office or any other agency. So all of them will take them as a government officer coming to asking questions. So it's quite likely that the ordinary people will get confused about the objectives, and that can create a lot of problem for the data collection agencies. And you should remember, these investigators go all alone, or maybe they go in a pair of one or two of them, and they work in remote places all alone without any support. And you cannot do a survey with police protection, because the data are collected in a confidential manner, and that trust is what all matters, not the police protection or anything. So in the current atmosphere of mixing administrative data collection for the NPR or NRC or whatever it is, with the normal census or survey, it's a very dangerous thing to do. The NPR should not have been tagged with the census. It should be done separately whenever the government wants to do it. But mixing that with the census is likely to pollute the entire data set.
Okay, if I may just ask you to also further simplify it for our viewers, that what exactly, comes out of these surveys, the regular ones, the standard question surveys, the socio-economic one, what would have come out of this survey that currently the officials are finding difficult to do? For a layman, what information would the NSO have given me out of this?
Yeah, one of the most important thing in the national context is the migration rate. Now, what is the migration rate, the immigrants? This is something which we have not collected for the last many years. And one of the indicators for a sustainable development goal relates to migration. So that is how this question has been put. And the definition of migration is related to the usual place of residence. Have we changed the usual place of residence? So this is a very standard question asked in all surveys. Nothing new about that. So, and there are many other questions also. Like even if I ask a simple question like religion, in the present context, people might misunderstand the objective of that.
Mr. Mohan, in fact, because you raised that point, I've had many people right now tweet to me as well saying, why is a question about religion there for a socio-economic survey? Can you help the viewers understand why it's essential?
Yeah, because I want to know the literacy rates, the difference in the literacy rates between Muslims, Hindus, and Christians. So I need to know the religion of the respondent. The same with health indicators, the same with any indicators. If I want to disaggregate the indicators by religion, I need to ask the religion of the respondent. There is no politics in that. And these data are all aggregated. Survey data is never given to public with identity.
Correct.
It's all given in aggregated form.
All right. Mr. Mohan, thank you so much for joining us and giving us more insights and a lot more clarity. Viewers, this is very important to understand. Many of these questions have always been asked. We've filled up so many forms. Many of you may have actually responded to these surveyors and they're used very regularly. Of course, our experts agree that perhaps in the current environment, people are just extremely cautious and reacting like this. But these are not new questions, not about your migration, not about how regularly you shift, not about your religion, not even about your caste. I think we've had those census and those kind of exercises as well. Tuhin wanted to come in. Go ahead, please.
So I'm a little amused at the number of times the phrase atmosphere of mistrust has been used in this discussion. If that atmosphere of mistrust has been created, it is purely manufactured by some politicians and some experts who want to encourage that.
You are saying if...
I heard out those questions. I would not have a problem with any of answering any of the questions. Would you have a problem? I'm asking you, Tanvi. What is so harmful about those questions? Those questions are perfectly innocuous.
But your name is Tuhin Sinha and my name is
harmless.
Tanvi Shukla.
Secondly, those people who have actually created havoc, doesn't matter. That's where you manufacture this mistrust. Let Waris Pathan
So you are
do
saying
that.
there is no mistrust?
Owaisi
You are
do
saying
that.
there is no mistrust? You are saying there is
Why do
no fear?
intellectuals have to contribute to
Whether
that?
it's justified or not, you are saying there is no mistrust,
Absolutely
there is no fear?
no. The
So
people
why are
who have
people in
created
Uttar Pradesh
havoc,
attacking
the
surveyors?
people who have,
Why
the
are people in Karnataka attacking surveyors?
That's precisely what I'm saying. The least that you can do. So hear me out. The least that you can do is send one of your journalists and ask those people who have attacked the surveyors. Was this the reason? Or was it something which has been fed to them by the political bosses? Why don't you ask those people who have attacked the surveyors?
I think you're getting the basic of this argument completely wrong. Nobody is sitting here and saying whether the fear is justified or not. I'm simply saying the government
is
to acknowledge.
It wrong. That's precisely what I am saying.
There is a difference between saying there exists an atmosphere of distrust and saying that the atmosphere of distrust is justified. There is a difference.
Which is manufactured.
And it is not my job to go ahead and clarify anybody's fears about what the government is doing. It's the government's job. I can only bring out the information, and I've done that on multiple accounts on what the NRC is and what the Citizenship Amendment Act is, what exactly these economic social surveys are, what exactly the Ministry of Statistics is doing, what are the questions in these surveys, and what is the people's response. Now, if the government is going to be in denial that there is a problem of distrust that people have, whether they were misled by anybody, whether there was because opposition was doing fear mongering, or they just don't want to trust you guys anymore, that's not for me to sit here and judge. That's for you to find out and fix.
So I have maintained it's a manufactured distrust, and that it certainly doesn't, make the government bow down like the previous governments would have done.
Very good.
You
then
create
we will look at an environment
situation of anarchy and you expect the government to bow down, the government won't.
A situation of anarchy is being used to describe a scenario where common people are attacking officials because they don't trust these officials in the questions they are asking. I don't understand how this is anarchy by any standards. Monojit Mandal, take some responsibility for the fear-mongering that is happening even by the political parties. Yes. When the government has made it very clear that there is not going to be any NRC right now, why are we still going on and on and on? Why are we blocking the work for NPR? And why are we not supporting these surveys in the work that they're doing right now?
You see, these, except the NRC exercise, all other exercises have been taking place for ages. Did we have any problem in 2010 when there was NPR exercise? The answer is clear, no. The problem lies with, again I would use the word, the trust deficit with the government. And this trust deficit has been there since the Assam NRC, and they are absolutely unparalleled, arrogant declaration of we'll have NRC everywhere. You have to understand this in the context. Now, any kind of survey, even I fear that even the census will now be questioned by the people on the ground, which should not be the case. This is the problem. The government has to take responsibility. Who has created this mess? Who has created this chaos because of this unparalleled arrogance of 303 MPs in the parliament? They have got the brute majority and blah, blah, blah. They have to clarify to the people through the state government that, look, these exercises are different from what you people are apprehensive about. They have to come on the street and clarify. Mind you, we have rightly said that their own allies are not trusting them. Forget about the opposition. Their own allies are not having this kind of exercises, any kind of exercises, whether sample surveys, NSSOs, whatever, because of the trust deficit created by the government, and I would say only by the Home Minister himself. He must come and clarify to the people of this country that, look, we were wrong. The problem is that he's not even apologizing.
Why does he have to apologize? He clarified.
Now there will be no NRC.
Apology for what?
Saying that, no. Let me expose the hypocrisy of this government and the lies of this government.
Why should Amit Shah apologize?
2018, since August 2018, they were saying that all the Ghuspetia, no, all the Ghuspetias will be driven out of the country. They were saying that irrespective of the religion. Now in 2019, suddenly they changed the goalpost. They were saying that only one kind of Ghuspetias will be driven out of the country. They said that there will be NRC everywhere till December 2019. Now they are saying that no, there will be no NRC. And yet, The problem is that this government never apologizes for their wrongdoing. They were saying that Assam, Guspetias all be driven out. Now, only one particular category will be driven out. All others will be given citizenship by the strength of this act. This is the hypocrisy of the government. You must call the bluff of this government, what they have been saying for the last 1.5 years.
Okay.
Every time they are changing the goalpost.
Tuin, do you want to respond to that? Before I go back to our non-political experts, yes.
You know, if an opposition leader has an iota of honesty in him or her, like Uddhav ji today did, he will come out and tell the truth. I'm sure you have followed what Uddhav ji said today.
Yeah, he's been saying it for
NPR
many
is
days.
absolutely harmless. Maharashtra is going ahead with it despite pressure from Congress and the NCP. Similarly, that's precisely what I expect from any opposition leader who wants to take a truthful position.
What about Nitish
But
Kumar?
unfortunately, whether it is the Saduddin Owaisi or whether it is the Congress party, all of them have contributed. No, Nitish Kumar has not taken
Naveen
any
Patnaik,
decision.
of course.
Whatever is being said about Bihar carrying or not carrying out is in the realm of speculation. I can tell you for that.
No, we've had JDU representatives confirm it to us and participate in debates. Naveen Patnaik has already
Bihar
said
has
they're not
not
going to do it.
taken
Odisha
any
is not
final
going to do it.
decision. On the contrary, the people who were taking a contrarian position on both CAA and NRC have been shunted out of Nitish Kumar's party. You've seen that.
Okay, last word from Mr. Azad and Professor Mehrotra then, but Mr. Azad first.
You know, I think, Tanvi, this Supreme Court's decision on the Shahid Bagh and the work of the interlocutors has to be seen what result is going to give us. Also, Supreme Court judgment on the constitutional validity of the CAA will also bring some calm into the minds of the people. Now, I don't think our esteemed economists listened to me when I was saying, I said that in this surcharged atmosphere, when people are not believing and disbelieving many things, it is important for the state government to prepare an atmosphere that this is a socio-economic survey which is for the benefit of the people and not something else like the NRC or the CA. And hence, this action has to be taken at twin level. One is at the central level where they make very clear again that NRC is not being pursued. And secondly, at the state government level, where they have to create a congenial atmosphere for this to go on because they owe it to the people. Okay. And I understand, Mr. Economist, like I haven't seen surveys, though your surveyor used to come to me when I was SP and I used to see them, you have never been seen anything about law and order. So we are both equal in these terms. Thank you.
All right, Professor Mehrotra, the last word to you if you want to respond to that. And my question to you is, what is the way forward then as far as conducting these routine surveys are concerned?
Well, that's a very difficult question as to what is the way forward, because the NSS conducts sample surveys across the whole country on a regular basis. In fact, the regularity of the periodicity of these surveys is increasing. The labor force survey is being done annually. The labor force survey for the urban areas is now being done on a quarterly basis. These are new things. There's going to be a service sector survey on an annual basis. There's going to be an unorganized sector survey on an annual basis. So, the point I'm making is that if this is an issue which is arising now, then can you imagine what is this? How much of a problem we are going to start when we start listing in later this year the households for the census of India of 2021. For the whole country, first you do a listing of the households. The listing of the households itself might become problematic. It's only once the household listing is done, it's only after that that you will actually do a census. So I am saying that we are in very dangerous territory, very difficult territory. I mean, there is the risk that for a whole decade to come, our database might get contaminated by the situation that in the way that it has evolved. So, I mean, we only hope that this is not a law and order problem. We can only hope that in future, for the life of our nation, we will not have to send in the police to carry out simple, ordinary surveys.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for joining us on this conversation. The intent, viewers, was only to highlight to you that what's happening in the country right now and the reaction that we are getting from various parts of our country. I'm not saying an extremely large scale, but it is problematic. It is problematic when the experts begin to recommend that perhaps the field officers and surveyors of Ministry of Statistics shouldn't go out on the field for their own safety. Because yes, now there have been far too many instances of them being attacked, them being shunned, them facing the wrath of the people who right now are very, very suspicious of anybody who's asking them questions. And this will only escalate further as we count down to the big NPR exercise that is supposed to begin in the month of April. Between April and September, various states will have to conduct this exercise. And there are a series of other surveys that the Ministry of Statistics any which ways does about employment or unemployment and consumption. All of these statistics are extremely important to understand the economic status of our country. There is already a huge data war going on. There's already a huge question about the data credibility. If we're not able to collect further data, just like Professor Mehrotra was pointing out, imagine what will happen in the coming decade, which is why it's extremely essential for the government to get out there and get their messaging right and deal with this distrust that we may be witnessing in some pockets of our country. I'm not saying that means the government has to change its stand or withdraw the Citizenship Amendment Act, but something will have to be done to fix this problem. Thank you so much for joining us on this debate. A horrific case coming to light from Gujarat's Surat. 10 women who were trainee clerks were made to stand naked in a room for a medical test in the civic-run hospital over there. Allegedly, even unmarried women were checked for pregnancy and the finger test was conducted on them. Now, after this story was reported and looking at the seriousness of the matter, the authorities have ordered a probe and a 3-member committee has been formed that has been asked to submit a report within 15 days. Now, you have to keep in mind this story is emerging just a few days after we found out what happened in a hostel with women in Bhuj. Disha is joining me with more details. Disha?
Certainly, Tanvi. In fact, 100 employees got a rude shock when they reached the Surat Municipal Institute of Medical Education for their mandatory fitness test. So this is how the entire incident really took place. So female employees were forced to stand naked together in groups of around 10 in a room where they did not have any privacy. In fact, they also alleged that the door was not properly closed and the only thing blocking the view from the outside was the curtain. Another thing, what really happened was, besides being subjected to the controversial finger test, even unmarried women were allegedly asked if they had ever been pregnant. In fact, some of the women accused the lady doctors by saying, who conducted the test of also behaving rudely with them. So all of this really came to light, and after that the incident really came to light, and after at least 2 to 3 days of the media reportage, the Women Commission has finally taken cognizance of this entire matter, and they have formed a 3-member committee to probe the entire incident. They will be recording statements, and further a report has to be submitted within 15 days.
All right, Disha, thanks so much for bringing us, a detail about what really happened. We also have the hospital superintendent who's spoken to us. Take a look.
जो कर्मचारियों के मेडिकल फिटनेस होते हैं उसके बारे में किसी ने फरियाद की है, जिस प्रकार से की गई है उनको शायद असंतोष है। कोई भी फरियाद को सीरियसली लिया जाता है। मेडिकल फिटनेस तो नियमानुसार ही हो रहा है और इतने सालों में बीमेर में भी 4000 के ऊपर कर्मचारियों का चेकअप हुआ है। अभी तक कोई फरियाद आई नहीं है। फिर भी फरियाद को सीरियसली हमेशा लेते हैं। उस तरह से एक कमेटी बनाई गई है।
Time for a quick break. On the other side, we are going to put the spotlight once again on the US President Donald Trump's visit to India. Stay with us. Lots of inputs on the other side.